to our Mariners who continue throughout the regular season. There was a lot. Well, last time I left you here, we were looking at the trade deadline, what the Mariners might do. I thought that Seattle would largely stay put, and they kind of did that. But we have games to get to before we get to the trade deadline and what occurred in the days before that. So we'll get to that, but I was told we'll get to that. I almost skipped ahead. Looking into the games that the Mariners played over the past week. The Mariners had a short little 3-game homestand after going on a 6-game and 7-day road trip and having played a 10-game homestand before that road trip. 3-game homestand, 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox, team that the Mariners were trying to leap over for in that wild card race. July 31st versus the Red Sox, a 6-2 win. Our play of the game designated hitter on the day, Cal Raleigh, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs for Cal. A multi-homer game. Cal has, I think after we get to this last one here, Cal has done really well against teams in the American League East, particularly the Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays. You can see a photo of the game here by Sage Zipeto. Dominic Canzone, and if you have been living under a rock or don't really follow the Mariners that well, you're like, who in the hell is Dominic Canzone? We'll get to that in a second, and it'll make more sense after we talk about the trade deadline. So that was game 1 of the series. Game 2, August 1st versus the Red Sox, day of the trade deadline. The Mariners would lose that game 4-6. A tough one, tough outing by Bryce Miller here. Wasn't really able to get into things. Might have gotten the order mixed up on these. Anyway. Oh, yes. Here is game 1 photo of the game. Matthew Bermudez captured this. J.P. Crawford caught a line drive that would have been straight up the middle to end the game. Great play by J.P. Great photo, too, to see the reaction of it. That is game 1. I apologize. I had them out of order. Wackadoodle time. Game 2, August 1st versus the Red Sox, a 4-6 loss. Bryce Miller had a tough outing. The offense really kind of couldn't get going after putting up a great streak of 10-plus hits. And I believe it was like 5 consecutive games. It ended the day before, but then it really sort of ended as the Mariners lost that one. That's the photo of the game from August 1st. I apologize. Our play of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, Gino, 2 hits, 1 run, and 3 ribbies on the day, 3 runs batted in. But the Mariners do lose that one to set up the rubber match on August 2nd versus the Red Sox, a 6-3 win. Our play of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, once again, Gino, 3 hits, 1 run, and 1 RBI. He continued his streak at the time. We'll get to that streak as he continued it into the Angels series. Continued to drive runners in. Apologize there. And Cal Raleigh had another multi-homer game, as you can see in this photo of the game here by Sage. Continues to hit really well against the American League East teams. So this was a big series win to go out and take 2 of 3 against the Red Sox, especially considering that they were a team above the Mariners in the standings. They're a team above the Mariners in the standings there, and whenever the Mariners play the Red Sox, it's always seemed to be a tough sort of series, especially here in Seattle. So after that 3-game homestand, that 3-game set, they went down to L.A., or more likely Anaheim, because they don't actually play in Los Angeles, to play the Angels. Now, the Angels went all in, obviously, at the trade deadline. They wanted to try and impress Shohei Ohtani, who will become a free agent this offseason. And so much for that impress. As you can see, I've got the broom there on the screen as the Mariners would complete a 4-game sweep of the Angels, something they haven't done since 2005. I was 4 years old in 2005, just to give you, not to make people feel old, but, Anyway, August 3rd, to begin that series against the Angels, a 5-3 win. I play the game left fielder Cade Marlowe, the rookie, getting called up in sort of an emergency status after Jared Kelenic got injured a few weeks ago. Had 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 4 RBIs with a go-ahead grand slam in the top of the 9th inning to give the Mariners a lead. Turned on a 99-mile-per-hour ball up and in, and really shocked the Angels in that one. The Angels had brought in Reynaldo Lopez, who was acquired in the White Sox deal that also saw them get Lucas Giolito. Had been having a great season. And then the Angels brought in their closer, Estevez, who had not blown a save all season until Cade Marlowe hit that grand slam, which was big, which is really big for the Mariners. They take game 1 of that series. Game 2 on the 4th, a 9-7 win, a real slugfest as Luis Castillo got the start in this one. Kind of struggled, gave up a couple homers in this one, including a first pitch solo homer by Luis Rengifo. But the Mariners win that slugfest. They put up a 4 spot in the first inning. In the second inning, Dylan Moore has his solo homer, and they're able to put that together. Our player of the game for game 2, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Julio, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and 2 walks on the day, including a 2-run homer. So the Mariners, with those 2 wins to open up the series, at least guarantee a series split. And then we get, to August 5th at the Angels, a 3-2 win, a really tight one here. The Mariners are able to pull things out in the clutch. Our player of the game, pitcher George Kirby, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, only 1 earned run against Jorge, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. It's his 9th quality start of the season with no walks, which leads Major League Baseball, and his 16th quality start overall on the season, which is tied for 3rd in Major League Baseball. Now, when I talk to people at the trade deadline, not the trade deadline, at the All-Star break about George Kirby and how he should have been an All-Star anyway, despite him getting in as sort of as he got in as an injury replacement player. I talk about stuff like that. I mean, George Kirby has elite control. Most quality starts. My brain had ultra quality starts, but quality starts. Really helped. The Mariners really relied on the bullpen in these games, especially after Castillo didn't have the greatest outing. He was able to go an extra inning, though, in that second game of the series. And I mean, even if the Mariners hadn't used their bullpen a ton, it's nice to just give your bullpen a break anyway, considering how great they've been. And George was able to do that. So that was a series win. The Mariners brought the brooms out, or the mops, to sweep away the Angels in the game 4 of the series, August 6th at the Angels. Another 3-2 win. Our play of the game, pitcher Bryce Miller. Now, Bryce only went 5 innings, so he didn't get the quality start in this one, but he only allowed 5 hits, 1 run, which did come in the first inning, no walks, and 10 strikeouts. Yes, 10 strikeouts through 5 innings. His first 6 outs that he recorded were all strikeouts through those 2 innings. And, after that Boston outing that I talked about in that series, I was kind of worried about Bryce because he hadn't really seen this sort of workload yet. And I was wondering if the velocity was going to be down and if he wasn't able to really sort of replicate what we had seen at the beginning of the year. And he had a pretty solid outing for the Mariners in this one. Taylor Saucedo comes out in the last 2 innings, in the 9th and the 10th inning, yes, because this one went into 10 innings. Was able to shut things down. So that was a big one for Saucedo to do that, local guy here. The Mariners get that 3rd run in the top of the 10th inning, and they come away with the sweep down in California and come back for a somewhat big homestand. So we'll get to that here in a second. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I went with Teo. I apologize because my notes say something different. So I went with player of the week. I went with Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, Cal Raleigh had the best OPS of the team over the past 7 games, but he only was hitting a 200 batting average, which isn't great, even though he has been hitting the ball well. But Teo had more of a rounded game, and then you look over these past 7 games he played. He only played in 6 of them, and he still put up these numbers: 9 hits, 2 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers for 4 extra base hits, 2 ribbies, a 360 batting average, which is great for Teo, considering that he's largely a boom or bust kind of guy. He's either a homer or a strikeout. And then, I mean, a 360 batting average is pretty solid. And 960 OPS for Teo there, which is really big. The Mariners, if they're going to make this sort of push here, they're going to need Teoscar Hernandez to be a summer Teo, as we've kind of seen him there. So you like the little broom? My little broom I put in there. Anyway, this was big. This was really big because, at the trade deadline, the Mariners mostly stayed pat. They made one major move, a couple of smaller moves on actual trade deadline day, and then in the days leading into it, they acquired the Trent Thornton trade we talked about a week ago or two. But with the Angels being largely in third place in the AL West, kind of hanging around that wild card picture, acquiring Giolito and Lopez and CJ Cron and Mike Moustakas at the trade deadline, you're like, oh, shoot, they're kind of gearing up here, which those trades were largely mid. I mean, they really weren't nothing to blow away from. This was big to go down to get a series win, let alone a sweep against the Angels, considering what the Angels are trying to do, still having Shohei Ohtani. There were a couple big moments where the Mariners bullpen came through and got Shohei Ohtani out of there. Matt Brash in that third game of the series when they won 3-2. Game 3 of the series, not game 4, to go out and strike out Shohei Ohtani in a big moment was big. That's big. You get the point. The magnitude can't be overstated, and to do this, to gain that ground, to be only 2.5 games out of a wild card spot, you're 6 games out of the top of the division, which is still possible, but it's more than likely, if anything, it's going to be a wild card spot. To leapfrog over a bunch of teams, including the ones that you just played in Boston, in Los Angeles, Anaheim. It's impressive. I mean, again, there was a lot of anger after the trade deadline came and passed. But if you look at the bats that were traded, there wasn't a lot of impact. It was mostly the pitchers, and the Mariners don't need pitching per se. They've got a lot of that starting and relief pitching depth throughout the organization. We've seen that throughout the course of the year as the Mariners have called up Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, and then the bullpen, guys like Isaiah Campbell, Ty Adcock, Prelander Baroa. I'm forgetting names. And now, bringing in Trent Thornton, having him come in. So it's impressive. It's really impressive. They're going to have to continue this as they've got some important series coming up, including one against the Orioles this weekend, an Orioles team that has really impressed this season and is near the top. I think they're at the actual top of the American League East. And that's going to be a big series as well, not only because of the fact that the Mariners need to keep winning, the fact that the Orioles are – again, I want to be sure. So we're going to look here at the AL East standings, but also because of how competitive that series was out in Baltimore a little bit. Yeah. Top of the AL East. They might be top of the American League. Yeah. Top of the American League. Oh, and tied with the Atlanta Braves for the most wins in baseball at 70. So yeah, it's a big series. So, I mean, if they can continue to do that, obviously we've talked about it through the course of the year. The pitching has never really been a big problem. It's been the offensive consistency, and we've seen more of that. The 9 runs in game 2, 3 runs in the last 2 games, not so great. But even before then, seeing the Mariners kind of average 5 runs a game is a big improvement for what they have been doing for the large part of the season. So, now we will get into the trade deadline. The big trade that the Mariners made was on July 31st, a day before the deadline itself. The team traded relief pitcher Paul Sewald, a fan favorite, a clubhouse favorite. On the emotional side of things, yes, this is a big blow because a lot of Mariner fans had really become big lovers of Paul. Came into this organization at 31 years old, having been cast away by the Mets at the time. Really kind of seemed like he was running out of options. The Mariners and their pitching, coaches and staff as a whole really turned his career around, and he joked about it with the media after he had been traded. He said, I wouldn't be getting traded for 3 prospects from a contending team if I hadn't come here and gotten my career revived, which, it's not wrong. So it was tough. It's tough to lose a guy like Paul, who's been such a big part of this team since you joined them. I mean, you see this photo by Liv here, was a part of that 18-inning game against the Astros, has largely taken over the closer role. If the Mariners really haven't had a closer outside of Edwin Diaz, it's been a long time since then, is the point. But yeah, so the Mariners get three younger guys, and that's how I described it in our write-up of it. Younger, athletic bats. Outfielder Dominic Canzone is one of them. We showed you that photo of him earlier. We wrote about it again, so I'll flash this on there so you know where to find stuff like that. But anyway, Canzone, to briefly describe these guys, Canzone has hit at every level of professional baseball he's played at. Whether that was even in the college levels and the minor league levels. And he had only been called up for like half of July by the time that the Mariners acquired him. So people look at his stats at the time through 40 at bats and like, oh, this is horrible. And it's like, the guy just give him some room to breathe, you know. It's like a career hitter is exactly what we had seen in Ty France. The guy had hit at every level before he came to big leagues. So, and I don't want to say exactly like Ty France. I can't guarantee that they'll be the same, but Canzone can hit is the point. And can also give Teoscar Hernandez a break out in right field, as Teo's been playing nearly every game for the Mariners out there in right field, which is a good thing. And they've already implemented that sort of thing. We've seen that already. Infielder / outfielder Josh Rojas. Rojas is the exact sort of player that the Mariners have acquired over the last few years. He's versatile. I'd say infielder / outfielder. That describes a bunch of the guys that the Mariners have acquired in recent seasons. He had a almost 3-WAR season last year. It's kind of been described as a pesky player. You talk about pesky, you talk about like a guy like Jose Caballero. It's not really a big hitter, but he's the versatility is what's big here. And a funny quote from Jerry Zipeto from his media availability after the trade deadline had passed on the 1st was that this trade would have gone through sooner had it not been the fact they wanted to include Rojas in it. So it took an extra 5 to 6 days, which is kind of funny considering who it was for. So, hey, we'll see how that turns out. And then the last part of it was outfielder Ryan Bliss. Bliss is a guy who can hit as well. He's not a big power guy. He kind of hits over his size in terms of his power, but it kind of messes up his swing. So they've been kind of focusing less on his power and more on his actual hitting ability. He's got plus speed, and he had just making it up to the AAA level. He is now with the Rainiers and has been playing with them. And Zipeto made it sound like he's not necessarily going to join the big league club anytime soon, and they're going to look for him to play out the rest of the season at the AAA level. So for a reliever who's 33 years old, and, you know, bullpens are always volatile, so you can't guarantee that Paul Sewell is going to be a proven commodity year in and year out. You've already got a lot of pitching depth in this organization, as I've said, to get 3 young athletic hitters out of it, which you kind of need in this organization, considering how often we've criticized their hitting. I think that's a good deal. I think it's a good deal. If you take the emotions out of it, which a lot of Mariner fans haven't been able to do, they've only been looking at it on the emotional side of things. If you look at it on the emotional side of things, yes, it is tough. You could argue against it, but if you take away the emotions, it makes a ton of sense. Paul Sewell's likely getting a pay raise next season. Don't know if the Mariners would have been willing to pay for that. So that's how that trade breaks down. We look at some other team-related news. On the 31st, the team recalled relief pitcher Juan Ten from the AAA Tacoma Rainiers as a corresponding move as they traded Sewell. They wanted another bullpen arm that day. On the 1st, the other trade that the team made on the day of the deadline was acquiring relief pitcher Edward Bizardo from the Baltimore Orioles. He had been DFA'd by Baltimore a few days before on the 30th. And the Orioles received relief pitcher Logan Reinhart from the Mariners, who had been playing with the High A Everett Aqua Sox. So, hey, maybe it's another guy that the Mariners take a flyer on and they're able to turn into one of their relievers. It's been so effective. I mean, you look at the guys who have some of the best ERAs for the Mariners in their bullpen with Saucedo and Justin Topa, guys like Gabe Spire. You hadn't heard of these guys before the season, and now they're big contributors to the bullpen. So anyway, on the 1st, some roster moves took place. Relief redhead pitcher Trent Thornton was recalled from AAA Tacoma. Infielder Josh Rojas and outfielder Dominic Canzone reported to the club as they joining the team. Relief pitcher Juan Then was optioned to AAA Tacoma, so they brought up Thornton, sent down 10. Outfielder Taylor Trammell was optioned to AAA Tacoma to make room on the roster, and then infielder Colton Wong was designated for assignment. So on the 3rd, shortstop J.P. Crawford was named the 2023 Heart and Hustle Award winner for the Mariners, and right-handed pitcher Ryder Ryan was selected to the 40-man roster and optioned to AAA Tacoma. So we round out things here. Again, somewhat of a big homestand coming up here for the Mariners, who sit at a 60-win, 52-loss record, 8 games above 500. 3rd in the American League West, 6 games back from the top of the division, as I mentioned, 2.5 games back from that last wildcard spot. Their next games are on Tuesday, August 8th, and August 9th, Wednesday, versus the San Diego Padres. So the Padres come to town, still very much a talented team with Fernando Tatis Jr., with Juan Soto. There's a ton of talent all over the board for the Mariners here. For the Padres, pardon me. So they're not exactly going to be an easy team to play, and they're still trying to battle their way into a playoff spot. So they've got something to prove as well. Just a 2-game set against San Diego here. Both of these games, as you can see, are 6:40 p.m. Pacific time first pitches. And then we get to the big weekend. Baltimore Orioles come to town, the top team in the American League, American League, second best team arguably in all of baseball. It's Felix weekend too. Felix Hernandez, the king, will be inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame, and the Mariners will be celebrating all weekend long. So it's going to be a hot ticket in town. August 11th versus the Orioles is a 7:10 p.m. Pacific time first pitch. August 12th versus the Orioles is a 6:40 p.m. first pitch. And then August 13th versus the Orioles is a 1:10 first pitch on Sunday as the teams close things out. It's going to be a big one. Again, with the sort of pitching that the Mariners have, they can be in arguably any series against any team in baseball. It's just how their offense hangs up. And if they're anything like we've seen in July and as of recent, the Mariners have got a good shot. So